Well, hello, and happy Sunday. Today is Sunday on November 6th, 2022. Super, super excited to be here with each and every one of you. Just in case you're wondering, you are watching Joanne's Healing Within, and I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, your certified holistic personal trainer, intuitive healer, cosmic energy reader, medical astrologer, master of numerology, Reiki master, and the creator of the Chakra Balance Numerology Cosmic Energy Forecast deck. Super, super excited to be here. I'm also a mom and a wife. Put a little personal touch into this as well. And again, just want to say hello. It's been a week. Hoping you've had an amazing week since our last episode. We still have a lot of energy going on, planetarily speaking. But before we dive into all of that, a couple of things I want to remind you to do, and I'm going to do the same, is I want to ask you to share out the show. Share, like, and comment. Let me know what you like about the show, and share this out to whomever you feel would benefit from watching the show, as I'm going to do just that now. And let's see if we can get this going so we don't spend too much time. There we go. Make sure it's not loud. I don't usually do that. All right. Maybe eventually it will come on. There we go. I thought I lowered it. Anyway, share, like, and comment on today's show. If you missed the episode of 2 weeks ago, you know you can go and watch on all the major platforms. I'm just going to name a few of them, which would be YouTube. Why is it not lowering? It's like the spirits are just playing around with me. Anyway, you can watch it on YouTube, Twitter, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and there's many others, but just to name a few. 2 weeks ago episode, I had an amazing guest, Susan Joy Mitchell. She spoke about her journey as a self-published author, and she shared some amazing books that she's written over the last couple of years, and also a poem. So if you didn't get a chance to watch, please go ahead and go watch it later. But stay with me right now because we have a lot to cover in today's energy and today's show for that matter. And I want to just give a shout out to all my amazing partners that help the show run week after week after week. And we're going to start off with, and there is a flyer for each. There is Joe Monkman, who's our shamanic healing practitioner and also wellness advocate. We have CJ Ives Lopez. She's the host and publisher of the Author's Porch podcast and magazine. Kitty Foss and Amy Martin, host of Intuition of the Soul. Nick Rafter, who's our editor, writer, journalist, and real estate agent. Kendra Greer is our astrologer, in-house astrologer. Terry Morse, she is the doctor of natural medicine and the founder of Morse Wellness. Nancy Rouse, I always do that. Sorry about that. She's our international author and artist. And last but not least, who is our guest for today, but let's do an intro and we'll get to her in a little while. Tammy Morse, she's the founder and chief encouragement officer and founder of the Homes Are for Living, along with Hoarding Solutions. So there you have it. There you have it. All of our amazing partners that help the show run week after week after week. And I'm still in the process of sharing, so let me get that going before I get caught up into today's topic. So there you have it. So as I mentioned, there's been a lot of energy going on with our planets. And today I just want to tap onto one of those planets just to give a little clarity in regards to what's been going on in the last couple of weeks. Our good old planet, Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of expansion in regards to our spiritual gifts and also in regards to expanding in who we are as a soul's being, for that matter. And there's been a lot of action in Jupiter. Now, Jupiter stays in one zodiac sign for 12 months, which gives us a lot of time to expand to who we really are and who we are becoming. And just recently, Jupiter has entered into Pisces, into Aries rather, as of May 10th of 2022. And we'll stay there until May 16th of 2023. However, in that time frame, Jupiter has dipped back into Pisces. And that took place on October 28th and will stay in retrograde until November 23rd. Now, I know there's a lot of dates there to keep in mind and try to stay in the know. But one of the most important things you want to be in the know about in regards to this stepping back into Pisces energy until November 23rd is it's giving you an opportunity to really reflect and expand on over the last 12 years of your life. What has taken place? How do you see yourself then? How you see yourself now? And what would you like to see yourself as it moves forward back into Aries again? So it's a reflection period, which also means that you may experience some lessons from the last 12 years that might very well show up. And just in case you're wondering, well, how far back does that go? 2010 is what this energy is reflecting for us. 2010. So if you could think back to 2010 to presentate what has occurred for you and how much have you expanded since then. It's an amazing energy. When we think about Jupiter being in Pisces, it's about expanding your awareness, your spirituality, and compassion for self. And it's also about embracing in compassion and your imagination. And what I like to say with this Jupiter Pisces energy is really tapping into your imagination, where you could see things that if we only focused on the 3D version of it, it would not be possible. But if we move into our imagination and we pretend like we used to do when we were children and imagine that the sky is the limit or the unlimited, however that expression goes. Anyway, whatever the case is, it's really a great time to tap into your imagination and start utilizing this energy to help you expand into your greatness, into what it is you came to this lifetime to do. And I always like to say, and one of my favorite expressions is go big or go home. Go big or go home. This is your time with Jupiter being in Pisces to expand into that greatness. Now, once Jupiter returns to Aries again, which will take place again in, just reading my notes here, it will take place as of December 20th. No, as of November 23rd. Let me just make sure I got that right. Yes, as of November 23rd, that's when Pisces goes, that's when Jupiter goes direct again. But when it flows back into Aries, we're looking at December 20th is when it's going to flow back into Aries. And at that point, that's going to give you a chance to really tap into your ability to embrace your confidence, embrace being brave, and giving yourself the ability to grow and expand. So it is really about self. And that's what it's all about when Jupiter is in Aries, because Aries is about self, how we see ourselves and how we want to expand, and really moving into that space of confidence and seeing yourself as this brave individual to do things that may be slightly scary or uncomfortable, or even to the point where you just don't see yourself wanting to do that. So that's this energy that we are in. So right now, just to recap, where Jupiter is in Pisces energy, this is about utilizing compassion for self and allowing your ability to move into your imagination so you can expand out of your comfort zone. And then once it dips back into Aries, it's going to give you the energy to tap into your confidence and being brave enough to grow and expand. And I'm going to leave you with a question, and then I'm going to pull a card. The question I have for you is, and I always ask this question, which is one of the reasons why I always recommend that you have your astrology chart handy, or at least you know the information, is where does Jupiter sit on your personal chart? Now, for me, Jupiter is in Scorpio in my 4th house. And just a little brief of what that means. Scorpio is the zodiac sign that governs the 8th house, which is about endings and transforming into new beginnings. 4th house is my foundation, where I'm building a new foundation, where I'm building a new way of how I connect with clients like yourself to help heal or help transform, and how I connect with my feminine energy of being able to receive support from others as well. And as we know, Jupiter's all about expanding and growing. So there's a lot of things for me going on behind the scenes that's helping me to uncover all the greatness that's coming in for me. So I'm kind of curious to know where Jupiter is on your chart, what zodiac sign, and also what house. And if you are watching this live with me, I would love for you to put in the comments. If you're watching from Facebook, put in the comments so I can read that comment and maybe later on come back and give you some insight to what that means, or even perhaps maybe towards the end of the show, give you some insight to what that means. But anyway, I want to pull a card so I can help you release whatever you need to release. So this Jupiter's retrograde in Pisces now can help you expand and utilize your imagination so you can grow into those perfect gifts. And what a perfect card. Healing, 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 which is so appropriate for this energy we are in right now. It's the number 6, which is the collective energy of what 2022 holds for all of us. To heal, to nurture, to schedule time, to utilize your imagination. Schedule time to tap into this Jupiter's energy so you can expand and grow and tap into your spiritual awareness. The color, high heart, which is all about compassion, which is what this is. Have more compassion to self and be able to spread out that compassion to others as well. So that's a really amazing card, a message for each and every one of us, tapping into working on the high heart, compassion, self-love, unconditional love as well, tapping onto healing so you can work on clearing whatever stagnations that's going on in the high heart so you can utilize this Jupiter's energy. So with all that being said, I am going to be taking a commercial break, and when I get back, I will have my amazing guest, Tammy Morse, here with me, and we are going to be sharing a conversation all about what are signs of hoarding. And I know for me, that's a very interesting topic because I know many people who do have this, I don't know even what to put it under, issue, whatever it might be, but it's a very interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Tammy shares with us so we can all work on that issue. So I will be right back.
Hello, my name is Nick Rafter, journalist, writer, editor. I'm happy to be offering copy editing and line editing services at competitive industry rates. If you have a book or any document that needs to be edited and thoroughly looked through, please contact me at nickrafter@gmail.com. Let's discuss how to get that work done. That's Nick Rafter, NICKRAFTER, @gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.
Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you are just tuning in with us right now. And just in case you're wondering, make sure you're at the right place. You are watching Joanne's Healing Within. I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne. You can go back and see my bio, whatever the case is. I'm super excited to have you here. Now, if you're watching before, great, just hang in there with me. And if you're just tuning in now, remember to share, like, and comment on today's show. I just want to share a little bit about what I spoke on before regarding Jupiter's energy, about it being in retrograde, dip back into Pisces, and it's giving us an opportunity to reflect on the last 12 years of our life. But even more exciting, it's giving us an opportunity to tap into our imagination so we can expand into our spirituality and all of the gifts that every one of us have if we are willing enough to tap into those gifts. And with that being said, the card that was chosen for today is healing. And I think this is really, really right in alignment with today's topic as well. Whereas when we think about healing, this falls under the umbrella of everything. And everything we do and can do can help us to heal and release what we no longer serves us. And that chakra associated is high heart, which is about compassion. And two, another great word for today's show as well. The number 6 is all about nurturing, healing, taking care of ourselves, and scheduling time to do what we need to do so we can heal. All appropriate to today's topic. That 6 energy is the collective energy for the overall year of 2022, which, funny enough, is almost at the end. We're in the 11th month of the year already. How on earth did that happen? But anyway, that's a whole other show. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to introduce my amazing guest, Tammy Moss. Her and I, oh my God, we have conversations off camera more times than we can imagine because we do work together week on week. And this is how this show came about based on all the amazing conversations that she and I share. So Tammy, if you wouldn't mind, share a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you're here today.
Well, hi, Joanne. Thanks so much for having me on today. And I'm Tammy Moses, and I work on the issue of hoarding or excessive clutter. And part of the reason I work on that issue is I experienced growing up in that situation. And I know there are a lot of us out here that have come through that. And I want people to know they're not alone and understand that there is hope and opportunities to escape those situations. And there are so many things that come about when we clear our space, whether it's our mental space or our physical space. And I'm excited to be here to talk about some of these things because there are so many ways that these things impact us. And if we don't address them, if we don't work on ourselves, how will we find healing? So that is a great card for today as we talk about what does healing mean and what can that mean for you?
Yes, I love that. I love that. And as Tammy and I, when we're off camera, we chat about this particular subject matter, it is quite interesting on the word hoarding. And theoretically, and I know from firsthand experience, you really can't walk into someone's house and say, hey, why is all that stuff there? And like, let me help you get rid of it. You really can't. So Tammy, could you explain to me why we really can't do that?
Well, it's one of those things where if you weren't accustomed to what you're walking into, your first response is, holy cow, we should clean this right now. And the truth is that you may not know that person well enough. You may not understand the reasons behind their excessive amount of stuff in their house. And it can come across as very rude and judgmental. Even if it's actually what needs to happen, they may not be prepared to hear that yet. And I think people either want to jump in and fix it or back off because they have no idea what to say or how to begin even comprehending what they're seeing. And I have found a more questioning or compassionate approach is more effective, and starting a conversation with the person and asking, treating them as if in some ways you don't actually see the problem. Like, you may see it, but have that conversation first before you really jump into the solutions that you feel are warranted.
Yes, yeah. And even when Tammy says that you when you walk into someone's home that you may not really know the person. And that's so true even with family members, where you can walk into a situation and literally you think you know them, especially if they are family, but then you don't understand what was the process that led to this hoarding or holding on to all this clutter for whatever the reasons are. So Tammy, if there would be one question that you can give me, like I can, let's say, approach the situation with, what would be like that one question? And of course, we'll probably touch on many, but what would be a question that I would be able to walk into, let's say, someone's house, a family member that is, not a stranger, and say, like, I would like to say, like, what the hell's going on here? But obviously, that's not compassion and kindness, and that's a whole lot of judgment going on. So, how would I approach that?
Well, I would say that that question is probably still in your mind
Oh, yeah.
when you walk in. But if you can kind of curtail that judgment initially, and, maybe there's something that you appreciate about that person that you haven't expressed to them lately. Maybe they actually do have a new piece of art on the wall. Maybe they have a new tea kettle, then they want to make you a cup of tea, which that's a whole nother topic. Depending on the cleanliness, you may not want that. But if you can engage with that person as a person, you are going to have a better opportunity at future conversations. But I will also add, if you're a family member and say there's past history or trauma or difficulties with that person, you may want to not be the person that raises the issue. You may have someone else that's, say, visiting with you, say it's a spouse or a friend, and maybe they are the ones that could say, wow, Maria, I'm kind of concerned about this. Or, hey, Paul, what's happening here? Like, it wasn't like this when I was here 6 months ago. And let someone else sometimes lead that conversation if you have this family connection there. And it's still challenging, though, when you do start talking about it. And a lot of times it can stem from a safety perspective, like, wow, there's a lot of things you could trip on in here, and I'm really concerned about that piece of this situation that I'm seeing. And coming at it from safety can help, but also understanding a lot of people have gone through some kind of trauma that has tipped the scale that has caused that hoarding to start. And it's more of a coping mechanism than it is something they're doing to try to harm you or upset a relationship. And if we can kind of take a breath and step back and look at ourselves for a minute, because for me personally, stepping into clutter like that or extreme chaos is very triggering. And I have to recognize that about myself and take a step back and say, okay, is this about me or is this about them? And should I even be in this space right now? Should I even try to have that conversation based on where I'm at? And it's very common for us to want to come in and fix it, especially as family members, versus understanding that maybe we aren't the right person to fix it. And the other piece of that is fixing someone else is pretty much impossible unless they're looking at their role and their situation. And we have to, sadly, sometimes let people fall. We have to let them experience the consequences of their choices and actions. And that can be really hard to watch if that is a loved one in particular.
Yes, that is so true. I love that. But as any show, there's commercial breaks. Let our viewers know how they can reach you up until this point. I'm sure there's plenty of people saying to themselves, wow, I somewhat connect to this because there's somebody I know that is experiencing this, or maybe even themselves. Because I know for me, since meeting you, there's been a lot of things I review about myself. I'm like, wow, would this fall under the category of hoarding? Like, let me ask Tammy. So let us know how they can reach you.
So the best way at this point is thehoardingsolution.com. And I do have links to a group that I run, as well as a podcast and some blogs there. And I'm just happy to connect with people to share what is out there. So it's homesareforliving.com.
Beautiful. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, there's going to be more about Tammy's journey to why this is such a space of compassion for her. And then also she's going to, again, just share what hoarding is. And if you yourself are experiencing that, of what you can do. We'll be right back.
Each of us has a mission. What's your mission? Would you like to become a community health resource specialist so you can help your family and your community? For more information on this new training, email me at terry@morsewellness.com. That's TERRY @MORSE wellness.com. You can become a community health resource specialist.
Hi guys, I'm Kendrick Cortez Greer, personal astrologer and astrological counselor here in Brooklyn, New York. I've been an astrologer for over 23 years now, providing astrological readings, counseling sessions, workshops, and corporate events all throughout the tri-state area. I've been very blessed and lucky to have clients all throughout the United States and beyond. If you're interested in a reading that is warm, heartfelt, honest, and conducive to speaking to one of your best friends, please contact me at 917-863-7528. You can also email me at kendrickstar@gmail.com. That's Kendrick, STAR, @gmail.com. And for you Insta people, find me on Instagram at Kendrick Cortez Astrology. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Toodles.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kitty Foss.
And I'm Amy J.
And we're Intuition of the Soul. We are a Facebook and YouTube group that has created a sacred spiritual place to look at your spiritual practices.
And there's too much to tell you about what we do, but let me tell you, we have weekly activities, we have monthly activities, and you are not going to want to miss our spiritual practitioner series. So join us on Intuition of the Soul.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne. I have my amazing guest, Tammy. I know I said it wrong before. Moses or Mose?
Moses.
Moses, thank you. And we've been chatting about hoarding. And the topic for today, which seems to straight on, the topic for today is what are signs of hoarding? And we were just chatting during the commercial break about how sometimes people hold on to things because they think it's valuable. And they don't really know where to go to find the right person to determine whether or not this particular item is valuable. So we hold on to it because we think we're going to eventually sell it. And I don't know about anybody else, but I have plenty of experience with that, where we hold on to things and hold on to things. Before you know it, you have an attic full of stuff that you're holding on to because you think it's worth money. But then that eventually becomes an issue of we have all the stuff in one space. That can definitely fall under the category of hoarding. So, Tammy, talk to me a little bit about that in reference to people who might collect things thinking that it's worth something, or they're holding on to it for some other sentimental value. So let's talk about that.
So a lot of people have a very emotional connection to their items, and it could be something very valuable. It could be something like, say, an older painting or some sort of collection that was passed to them from their an older family member. And a lot of times we hold on to that thinking if we get rid of it, we'll lose the connection with the person, or we hold on to it thinking we'll sell it at some point, and then that's going to justify how much space it's taken up in our lives and in our homes. And part of the issue with that is you may find something to be very valuable to you, and no one else will really look at it that same way. And that can be really challenging. Like, say you're in a spot where you need to move, and now you have these family heirlooms or china or hutches or things like that. And you maybe don't want to take them with you, but you also don't want to release it because you're afraid that you'll lose the memory, or maybe you'll think that person who gave it to you will think less of you because you didn't hold on to it. And it can be problematic because at some point you may want to release it. And one way that you can do that is to write down all your memories around that. Take a picture of the item before you release it. And while it can be valuable to find someone who will use it and enjoy it and want to keep it, at some point you may decide you just don't care because you want your space cleared, and it doesn't matter where it goes as long as it goes away from you. And I had that experience when I was moving. Like, I decided there are certain things, I don't want to look at this again. I don't want to move it. I don't want to unpack it. I'm just going to release it. And it was freeing. A couple projects, I'm like, I kind of wish I'd have kept that thing because I might have finished it after I moved and everything. But the truth is letting go sometimes is the best way that we can honor ourselves and honor our decisions and move forward.
Yes. And I think it's so interesting because everything you just spoke about, I felt like you literally talking to me. Forget about our audience for a moment. I really felt like you were talking to me because I too had just experienced a major move and literally moved things out of closets. There, one particular trunk that I have, and I have it for years since I'm a little girl, and there's a bunch of stuff in the trunk. To name just some of it, to what I can even remember, are like Barbie dolls and my dance costumes in the trunk. And I had said to my husband, I'm gonna open up the trunk and probably go through it and see what's there and blah blah blah, maybe even get rid of it. Did I do that? No. I took it from where it was because I had to make space. I took it from where it was and I put it into my closet. And I organized my closet so I could stick this trunk in there, and it's just in there. Which again, now I've been living in my apartment for 11 years. It's been 11 years that it was moved from where I lived in my parents' house into my apartment, and it's sat in that one spot for 11 years, and now it's sitting in my closet. Maybe, just maybe, the next time I decide to want to move things around, maybe that trunk will open, and I might actually either A, take all the stuff that's in there and get rid of it, or who knows what the hell I'm going to do with it. But I think it's so great that you gave that example on maybe I will sit and write a letter or write down the things that are in it, because again, the sentimental value, if there is any. And then there's also I had this huge curio cabinet that had a bunch of kashis in it, and put them all in boxes and shoved that into the closet. Because again, it was like, well, if I was initially going to get rid of it, just like to put it out, wasn't thinking about who needed it or whatever. But then of course, my husband's like, you may not want to throw that away yet. You're thinking on impulse because you just want to make space. I was like, so what am I going to do with all of this stuff? Because I don't know, put in storage. So I shoved it in the closet. So again, perfect example, because it's just different things that we want to move out, want to get rid of, but we're not just sure what we want to do with it just yet. So I love the example that you shared about sitting, especially with the little knickknacks, because all those things were things that were given me to me as gifts that maybe I might just sit down. Definitely not going to go and open the boxes again because I've wrapped those little suckers up really well to go into a box. But I might very well decide at one point or another to take it out of the closet and just say, you know what, I'm just going to take it to a thrift shop and say, here, you do with it what you want. And I think it's a perfect time to do that with the energy we are in, with Jupiter giving us the ability to expand. So I love that example on writing that letter to yourself, of course, in reference to the things you're looking to get rid of. So what other examples you have in reference to someone that might be in this situation where either for themselves or they have a family member that they're going through this with?
I think one of the most important things is to be gentle with yourself, especially if you're going through, say, your parents' things, and you may come across a lot of memories that come up for you, or maybe missed opportunities, and that can be very, very emotional to go through that. And just as an example, we were about a year ago cleaning the property where I grew up, which has a hoarding issue. We have made a lot of progress, but came across a pair of pajamas, and that were mine when I was little. And it was very disconcerting because they were outside in a pile. And I'm like, how is it that the kids' stuff wasn't valuable enough to be stored in a building or a house? And so that made me question my own self-worth again. Like, how valuable was I in this family or this situation. And it's things like that that can catch you off guard. You might sit down and write a letter about all the things that you have in your box, but you may find out that, hey, this one was from my mom and that's really important, or my aunt gave me this, or my uncle. And there is this emotional connection or attachment that we have to these things. And I feel like, and in my own experiences, you have to kind of work through that. You have to work through that emotion. You have to work through that situation. And maybe you can't do it at the time, but I find writing personally be very therapeutic. And so it's easier for me to process some of the harder things, I think, when I'm not feeling judged by anybody reading what I'm writing. But it's very challenging to be emotionally connected to some of these things. And I had this experience where I've worked with older folks who are downsizing for whatever reason, and they're like, I really want my daughter to have this curio cabinet. And the daughter's like, I don't want it. I have no room for it. Like, get rid of it. And it's very difficult for that older person. And they may not have a hoarding issue at all. It's just they're attached to this thing. It's very difficult for someone to hear, hey, I don't want your stuff. But I think it's a trend. It's very common for people to say, hey, I don't want your stuff. And that person can get offended because you don't want it. But it isn't because you don't love them or care. It's the opposite of that. You love yourself and you care about you, and you don't want to overcrowd your space, or you don't want to. Like, I had a piano offered to me that was my great grandma's. Well, it was in Iowa. I'm in Washington. I have a small house. And I'm like, wow, that would be awesome. I'm not going to drag a piano from Iowa to Washington. And so I kind of had to release that, that piece. And it's a good thing I did, because a few years later I moved, and where would I have put a piano in tiny house living? So
Exactly.
And so our decisions that we make in the moment, they're not always wrong. They're often correct. That gut feeling is often like, that's not going to happen for me. And when you start to realize that you can have memories, have connections, but not have the stuff overtaking your life, that can be very freeing to recognize that that's okay for you to release those things.
Yes, and I love that. So again, Tammy, let everybody know how they can reach you.
So my website is thehoardingsolution.com, and I'm happy to connect with folks and see how I can help.
Yes. And considering we are approaching holiday season, this might be a really great time to connect with Tammy, just in case you do have to go visit family, or you yourself have an issue with this, where you want to get your house or apartment in order so family can actually come over and you feel comfortable enough to invite family over or to go to a family member. So reach out to her if this is resonating with you. We're going to take that quick commercial break, and we're going to come back, and there's going to be a little bit more going on in reference to this topic. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm CJ. The Author's Porch is a community where you find good books and good people. We collaborate with services that deliver quality to authors and publish a magazine for authors by authors. Come by, let us feature you or review your book. Coffee is always on, and no matter what time you arrive or where you come from, the porch light is always on.
Hey, this is Joe Monkman, and I am a personal development trainer. And that means that I help people step into their leadership roles, take their place as a visionary, really understand their own mastery in the world so that they can really find their place at the buffet of life. And if you want to know more, you can find me on my Facebook page at Joe Monkman and joemonkman@gmail.com.
Hello, my name is Reverend Nancy Rouse. I'm an internationally published artist, author, and poet. Please stay tuned for the end of this commercial to see how to order my latest book, Never Broken, Volume 3. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, and I have my amazing guest, Tammy, here with us. We are chatting about what are signs of hoarding. And if you're just tuning in, you're definitely going to want to come back and watch the beginning of this because Tammy has shared some amazing insight regarding what are signs of hoarding and even gave some amazing tips in reference to what you can do about it. But for now, stay with us here. And you can always come back and watch it on any of the major platforms, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. So Tammy and I chat between the commercial breaks. And I had asked her during the commercial break what her thought process, her opinion, her insight is on storage space. Because for whatever the reasons are, over, I don't know, maybe last 15 years or so, storage has become a really big thing. There are plenty of places, at least where I live, where you can go and get a storage spot and put all the things that's in your home that you don't want to see anymore into storage. So I was kind of curious, Tammy, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I do believe there is a time and place for storage, and it's not always the best option, but there are times when it makes a lot of sense. And an example is someone who has 2 or 3 storage units and they're paying a lot of money every month to store things, plus they're living in a space where they're paying rent or a mortgage. And I've come across folks who pay too much for storage and it impacts their ability to move to a new location, and it weighs them down mentally to have all this stuff that they aren't using, haven't seen in a while, etc. And the positive side of a storage space is, say you're moving, and in order to get ready to sell your home, you need to declutter and downsize what's in your home. But you're moving, and so you're not going to get rid of your furniture and your clothes and all that. You're just going to transition it for a bit. And so you can have a storage space, you declutter what you can, and then when you're ready to move to your new spot, you just take everything out of storage. But I have seen people spend hundreds of dollars a month, which translates to thousands of dollars per year and in their lifetime, for a bunch of stuff that they don't need. And I've seen the storage units where it's full of stuff that they just gathered from somewhere else, and it doesn't even have a meaning or a purpose for them. It's just stuff that they've collected, which is kind of a security blanket. So I think storage is a tool, but it's something you have to really look at and decide, how long are you willing to keep it there, and have a timeline. Say you're going to put it in there for 90 days or 6 months, and then at that end of that time period, you need to make decisions. And a lot of times that's what it is, delayed decisions. Our stuff is just sitting there because we can't decide, and not deciding is still a decision. So it is a challenge to, I think, sometimes, especially if you're helping someone move or downsize, but there's a purpose. And say you can't afford a storage space, but you have that spare room, and you can just box your things if you're moving and put it in there, and just find ways for you to be able to manage what you are keeping, and be okay with releasing the things that aren't going to serve you as you move forward in your life.
Yes, and I totally agree. And one of the reasons why I brought this topic up is because, again, I always bring things into the conversation that reflects what I'm going through. And as I mentioned before, in the last, 3 months, I don't even think it's that long yet, maybe 2 months. I've gone through that whole process of having to sell, donate, get rid of, and then there's other things that I was not able to sell, donate, or get rid of, which meant I needed to put it to storage. And the first thought went through my mind when having to think about storage was, how long do I really want to keep this stuff in storage? And my most important reason for that was, just like Tammy mentioned, how long did I want to invest in keeping this stuff before either A, I can sell it, because that's ideally the goal here, or B, I get to that point where I'm like, okay, not selling it because no one's willing to pay for it. So can I donate it? And I had to give myself a timeline to how long I plan to do this. And once I reached that timeline, then it's going to be the next decision on, okay, having to literally take the stuff out, because there are going to be certain things I'm keeping, which then means I get to downsize my storage space, which means spending a little less money, but still going to be spending money on storage. So I think that's really, really a good tip in regards to, if you're going to be using storage, really come up with the timeline to how long you plan to keep this stuff in storage. Because again, it does add up. If you're paying, we'll go the low end, at least from my and where I am, it's like $85 a month. And at the end of that, after that year, you've already paid almost what, $1,200 on storage.
Mm-hmm.
That you could apply that money to something different. So that's something to think about if you are looking to utilize storage, and why do you want storage. So Tammy, I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your experiences with us, and tips that you provided today with us. So what I would like to do for you is offer you a card reading. Are you open to that?
Yes, I am.
All right. So what I'd like for you to do is just hold a question in mind that you would like some guidance on, and just say your name that you go by and that people resonate with you with 3 times out loud.
Tammy, Tammy, Tammy.
All right. Let's see what Tammy needs to know based on the question she's holding in mind. Oh, her card, her affirmation is communication. Exactly what she's doing right now is she's communicating. But what I hear from this card, Tammy, it's about communicating on a much broader scale, getting your message out here. And today's like step 1 to getting her message out here, because we all need to hear this, everything that she shared. And as she said earlier, there's so much to cover with this topic. And this is a big topic, and many of us do not speak about it often enough. In fact, some of you might actually be saying, wow, finally, there's someone talking about this topic. It's almost like we need to hear this, but no one wants to talk about it. So, Tammy, that's your job, is to continue spreading this wisdom out, sharing out to the world about this topic, so people realize that this topic does exist, and that they are not the only person that might either know somebody or experiencing themselves a hoarding issue. And that, I think this word has been used more time today than ever, compassion. Compassion with yourself based on your own story that you've experienced, and also compassion with all those people that you've come in contact with who may be experiencing this as well. And just continuing to send that out and sharing that message of compassion when it comes. It's like, the way I see it, hoarding, compassion, they go together. Hoarding and compassion, because it's a very delicate conversation. And the number 1, 2 adds up to be a 3 again. So again, it's that communication, marketing yourself, getting as much information out there on all platforms possible, flyers, videos, whatever it is you need to do so you can get your message out there. Does this resonate with your question?
Yes, and it resonates with quite a few of the conversations we've had in the past couple weeks around broader audiences. And in fact, even just this morning, when I was, barely awake having coffee, I was like, I know who I would hire if I was going to go bigger. And it's like that thought just kind of came out, and I was like, oh, I didn't know I was thinking about that. But you can't, I think the biggest thing is you can't do these things alone. No. And when you start to recognize that help is okay, help is healthy, that asking for help is part of our journey, and it allows other people to give to us as well. And that can be very hard to receive if you're constantly feel like you're giving, or you're afraid of receiving. And I think it kind of comes across with the whole success piece too, where people will say, oh, I'm afraid to fail. And actually, we're afraid to succeed because we don't know what that might look like. We don't know what relationships or things we'd have to give up in order to succeed. So we kind of shy away from it. And I'm speaking to myself here, where you may see what you need to do, but it can be very scary to take those steps. And I think that applies very much in hoarding and in these situations where you have to allow yourself to receive. You have to be willing to say, hey, I've got an issue and I need some help. But you also have the right to look at who you're telling that to, and being aware of who may or may not guide you correctly on the journey. So I don't think it's something we talk about enough. And there's a huge mental health component to this, which is something else we don't talk about a lot. So being aware of some of those things can, I think, help us personally, and it can help us in our interactions with others.
Yes, I think perfectly said. And what I like to put out there, and I'm sure Tammy's okay with me doing this, is for anyone who is watching this and that has a podcast or any other way for Tammy's message to get across, she is available for speaking engagements. She's definitely available and willing to share her journey, her story, to get as many people aware that this particular issue does exist, and that you, me, Tammy, anybody else are not the only ones who might be experiencing some hoarding issues. Whether we think of it as starting out as, well, I'm just going to collect this, or I'm going to hold on to this, or I don't want to get rid of this just yet. Eventually, over time, it's like, from my experience, anything, it's like once you put something down in one spot, before you know it, you end up putting a lot of things down in that same spot, and before it becomes this pile of everything, it's like all because you stuck that one thing in that spot. So we can just learn how to give everything a home, and also recognize what we don't need anymore and not be afraid to get rid of it. So please reach out to Tammy if you have a podcast where she can share her journey, her story, and of course get this information out there. So Tammy, once again, I'm so glad your card resonated. And I'm so glad you're here sharing this amazing topic with us. And I believe you're going to be back on, because I think we have another topic in reference to how this hoarding issue is related to mental health as well. So something to think about. Just putting it out there for you. Let our viewers know how they can reach you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And the website is thehoardingsolution.com. And yes, I'd be happy to speak more and enlighten people that this is an issue we need to talk about, and the struggle is real, but you don't have to go through it alone.
Excellent. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I will be back with the conclusion of today's show. Again, Tammy, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you.
Did you know that stress and unprocessed emotions can store in your body, creating more muscle tension and pain, causing illness and disease to flare up? With the help of Chakra Balance Reiki Healing, you can begin to feel better within one session. Hello, I'm Reverend Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, your certified holistic personal trainer, intuitive healer, cosmic energy reader, medical astrologer, master of numerology, and the creator of the Chakra Balance Numerology Cosmic Energy Forecast Deck. And I would like to help you release issues from your tissues as you release emotional weight and begin to feel better physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. For more information, email healingwithin76@gmail.com. Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne. I have my amazing guest, Tammy, on today. She was sharing with us about what are the signs of hoarding. Now, if you're just tuning in right now, you're definitely going to have to come back and rewatch this, because it was an amazing topic. And I'm sure there's many of you out there that are probably like, wow, there's a conversation about hoarding. Yes, because there's so many of us who experience it, whether we're experiencing for ourselves or we know a loved one that might actually be experiencing it. So you can come back and watch on many of the platforms, to name one or two, Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Feel free to come back and watch this. And of course, reach out to her should you need any support by her. With all that being said, I want to just give a shout out to some of my partners that have amazing promos. But before I go with that, I just want to remind you that I will be back on November 20th with another amazing guest who's only coming onto the show for the very first time. And her name is Deborah Betty, I believe it is, or Berry. Always mess up people's names. My apologies in advance. But it's going to be an interesting show considering the topic she will be sharing. She asked that I did not reveal that topic just yet because she wants to come and surprise you with it. So we're going to leave it at that. For our amazing partners that have some amazing promos going on, here we go. And there is a flyer for each. So we have Find Your Place with Nick Rafter, Spirit Messages and Energy Insight, which actually starts back up this Tuesday. Morse Wellness, the Author's Porch podcast and magazine. Next issue's coming out in January. Really excited for that one. Intuition of the Soul, Kendrick Greer Astrology, and then last but not least, the 12-week astrology course offered by me. Anyway, it's been a great show. I love when the guests come on and share some amazing insight with each and every one of us to help heal from within. And if we can heal hoarding issues, that's a major healing from within. I look forward to seeing every one of you in 2 weeks from today on November 20th. Until then, enjoy this Jupiter's energy in Pisces. And remember, it's all about expanding into your imagination so you can actually live the best version of who you are and expanding into those spiritual gifts. Bye-bye for now.